Hi everyone, and welcome to Derby Day in my studio. I'm so glad you could join me on this fun day. I thought it would be a good beginner drawing lesson to draw the Kentucky Derby Trophy because metallics have been featured in art history. When you look at old paintings, you see the most beautiful paintings of silver and pewter and gold, and it can look very complex when you first see them, but when you understand just shape and color and draw or paint them in, you suddenly have the most beautiful result. So let's get started. Here I drew the trophy and the two spires at Churchill Downs. Known all over. These two spires are known all over the world, and they're in an Italian architectural style. And the trophy, I just want to tell you quickly, it's the only solid gold trophy in all of sports, and it is just magnificent, and we'll talk more about it as we learn to draw it. It's also a good beginner drawing lesson because it has a lot of ellipses and ovals in perspective that we can talk about. All right, so we're going to get started as we usually do with our placement and our ovals. So I'm looking at the shapes and sizes of my trophy, and I'm going to lay in a bottom oval for the base, a circle for this part, a lopsided oval, sort of egg shape, another oval, and now I want to make sure I get the horse and rider in before I get too close to the edge of the paper. So I'm going to do a little oval for the jockey, some ovals and circles for the horse, and this is how I begin all my horses. Look at the direction of the legs. You can just do straight lines for now. And this rider and horse are on another oval. And again, we're looking at the distance between here and here as we make our ovals. Then we have the fluted area here. So I'm going to do a trapezoid shape. Give a little indication of the handles. For down here. This you'll be doing lightly at home, and for those who join me every week, you might be tired of hearing me say that by now, but I'm drawing dark so the camera can see, but you will be drawing this very lightly because these lines you will erase a little later as you do your detail. So I'm happy with the placement of this on my page. And now I'm going to go across, and this is a good example of if you don't feel like you can draw a straight line, it's okay. We're not machines. We're going to just lay in these lines quickly. I'm going to go across my banister line, and I'm going to look at my negative space from here to here and just start to lay in this roof line. So I'm looking at my negative space from here to here, and we will not use ovals now, but squares. And it's going to look very elementary, but this is how we begin all of our art. You can feel like a 4-year-old learning your shapes in pre-K, but that's really how it all starts. So I'm going to start a square here, and kind of a witch's hat here for this spire. lay in a couple of rectangles, rough in some rectangles for windows. And then my roof line, let's look where, right in the middle, and put in that line. Okay, so now we have it roughed in, or what we call the gesture of the drawing. And I'm checking, as I'm doing this, I'm checking, am I happy with this distance, this distance, this distance? I am. Okay, so this is when you're going to start to do your contour, your outline of the trophy and the spires. We're going to start with the trophy first, and if we have time, we'll start to work on the spires. If not, we'll save that for another lesson, because they're a great beginning architecture drawing to do. Alrighty, because I don't have time to erase this, as you who join me know, I have one already prepared. With everything erased and just my light lines showing me. Okay. Now, because I forget about the camera, these lines are very light. That's okay, you follow along, we'll be fine. Get a sharpened pencil. Alrighty, so anything that has a horse on it, I'm happy to draw it. Let's start up here with our jockey. So we did our ovals for our horse, and now we're going to connect. Let's connect our ovals on our horse first. His underbelly. Remember, we had the lines for the legs. And connect the neck. And then the head, ears, a little bit of rein. This leg is in front of that leg, goes down. This leg is in front of the other leg, so we're going to go down. A little indication, we don't have to worry about details of the hooves right now. Let's just give a little dark indication. Also, this is made out of gold, so it's not tremendously detailed in our drawing right now. Little shadow there. Okay, so we had an oval for the jockey and an oval for his head. Just make a little line and his cap. And then you just can shade in a bit for his arm and his shoulder, and then his boot. Right now we're just concentrating on our outline or our contour. Sometimes I put a little shading in as I'm going. That's okay. Okay, I won't fuss too long on this, although I could spend forever. We'll get down to the other part of the trophy. So this horse and rider are on an ellipse. Straight, a bit of a straight edge there. And this is where it's great to study your subject, study the structure of it, because a lot of times in different lighting and reflections you can't see how it's constructed. And also, if you're doing a fine piece of art, you don't want to have it outlined solidly like this in one solid black line. But when we're learning to draw, this is what we do. So again, another ellipse. And here I have my handles. So when you're at a certain point, you can, even if you plan to do more ellipses next, if you're at a certain point and you know, oh, I'm at the juncture of the handle, then I want you to lay it in. So we're looking at this shape. The handles are actually a beautiful reef in gold, and a little hard to see with this view of the trophy. Okay, so I'm going to come down to where I had the bottom of that egg-shaped oval and up. I'm going to connect my ovals that I had made and the sphere I had made here for this part, and my oval down here. I'm going to, and see my hand, this is because our hand is naturally curved. This is a good way to position your hand on your easel so you get those nice curves. A little harder going the opposite way. And you can turn your paper at home if you like to, in order to do that. So I'm going to just put a few indications of lines in here for the different parts of the trophy's base, and then look more at that contour as I do this. So now I'm checking. And again, remember, it doesn't have to be perfect on the first try. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that contour. I'm going to now go quickly to my spires, and I'm going to go over the lines that were darker earlier. Let me go over them quickly. Now, okay. So the spires are octagonal. Oh, there goes my derby hat. I'll get that later. And again, we're dealing with ellipses of the brass, copper, I don't know if it's brass or copper. The top of the spires go around. So we don't want to make a straight line, we want to make a curved line that goes around. So you can do it in a round stroke and then erase that a little later. Right now I have to actually remind myself that we're only doing the contours right now, because I'll dive in. Right here. We join that. And then we think about the structure of that roof line. Again, they're octagonal. And we look over here and here. Where are those lines? Do they match up with the line down there? Good. And when you're laying in windows, I usually just do the horizontal lines first, I don't worry about too much detail in the beginning. And I will, just in case I don't get back to it today, I want to show you this. I just very, very lightly put in indications of the panes of glass. And that's how I get started. I hope it shows up on camera because I'm doing it lightly, as I want to show you how you lay it in lightly, then you go back with more detail. So, little structure there, lay in those lines. And the spires are Italian style architecture. There are columns, curved arches, and it's a beautiful, absolutely beautiful building. If you ever get to see it in real life, it's just beautiful. I'll just quickly do my railing line there. Okay, let's go back to our trophy. So the trophy has a horseshoe on the front, and inside the horseshoe is where the winner's information is engraved. And before 1999, the horseshoe was this way, was face down on the trophy. And the trophy was designed by a wonderful industrial artist named George Graff in 1924. He was commissioned to design the trophy. And this trophy has been used at each race since then. And in 1999, they changed the orientation of the horseshoe to be this way because folklore is if your horseshoe is faced this way, all your luck is running out. And I had actually learned that from my dad, who had carved beautiful horseshoes and had them on our home. And I was hanging one once. He's like, "Oh no, Joanne, it has to be this way to catch the luck." This part of the trophy is fluted. So again, we're just thinking simple shapes. And with the flutes, you think of just triangles. With metallics, you're going to have a lot of reflection. So when I first saw a photograph of this trophy, all I saw was yellow. All I saw was a gold trophy. And as I studied and studied and studied it more, I saw all these things I had not seen when I first looked at it. So that's really important. So I'm going to lay in, there's a reflection of the wreath handle here, and a reflection here. And we're looking at, again, how far away from our edge we go up. And where does it end up here? It's a little thicker at the bottom. I'd like to show you something now. This is a good time to show you. When you're drawing an object that's symmetrical, it can be very difficult to get both sides the same until you have a great deal of practice. But I'll show you a trick, and we had done this once before, I believe with a flower drawing. I'm going to put a piece of tracing paper over my trophy, and I'm going to draw just half. So if I'm learning to draw something very difficult, quite often I will do this, and it's okay. There are many drawing aids that you can use in art, and there are no rules against using them. So please feel free to use them. Again, this is symmetrical. It's the same on both sides, except for our horse. Okay, so what you'll do is then you flip it, and you would put a piece of graphite carbon paper underneath so that you can then trace it onto your page. And then you have it perfectly symmetrical. I'll leave this here in case people want to look at it to remind themselves. Quite often when you're teaching young children, we don't pick symmetrical objects because it can be a bit frustrating for them. Alrighty, so I'd like to go back up to our horse, our jockey and rider, and mostly when you're drawing horses, there is a shadow almost always underneath the belly. There's always a groove right here in the neck. So if you're doing a quick drawing of a horse, there's some basics that you can do to make it recognizable pretty fast. And then you look at your specific subject. Where are your darks and lights? And on the trophy, it's so beautiful. There's a reflection of his legs. Because this is a color drawing, it might look a little bit more complex, but it's still pretty much the same. You're looking for where your light source is, how dark and light your values are, where is it in shadow. Metallics are a great subject because not only are you thinking about the structure of where the light source is and where the shadows are, you're also able to have fun with shading all the reflections. And they will reflect the objects around them. So that gives you clues to what colors to use. And we'll talk about more of that when I do some beginner color lessons. So in this, I'm going to get my sharper pencil here. So this handle connects. This is when we can get more into the careful structure of the trophy. And we can just give indications of the texture of that wreath handle with some very simple wide lines. Got a sharper pencil now so I can do the bottom of his leg or her leg. So I don't like how dark that is, so I am going to take a minute. I'm using a black colored pencil right now, so it does not erase tremendously well. So I'll shade that in a little bit because I just didn't like how dark that was. Okay, so when you're drawing the horseshoe, this is also something that's a good structure to know how to draw, because there'll be a line in the middle. There's a bit of an edge here. And I also wanted to talk with you today about your eraser. So when you're working on metallics, the thing that will bring them to life at the end of, usually at the end of your drawing, is you can take away some of the color or some of your pencil, and I'm hoping it'll work with this black colored pencil, but it will work with your regular graphite drawing pencils as well. And it's a reflection that shines off of the metal. And you achieve that, I'm going to just do a little bit more of a light value across here, and hopefully it will show up. And you hit that subject with your eraser where the light is hitting. So I'm going to go here, and this is a great finishing touch for your work. If you take away too much, because you've already done your piece, you'll know how to add it back in. Yeah, that shows up nicely. I like that. And that really brings your piece alive. At this time, you're going to compare your values. It's basically a line drawing, but we're doing some beginning shading. So I want to compare. This down here is darker in my subject piece. Where is the dark there? A little darker under this lip. Now also the fluted area, if when you have time, if you'd like to for your homework, is to look at pictures and study, because all these ellipses are so interesting. And the handles and around this edge and up here are beautiful flowery edges that are hard to capture in the drawing. Let's give, whenever we draw, we want a subject on a surface, we want to give it a little shadow. And this is a little darker here. Some lines here. Darker there for the horseshoe. Well, that is not bad for a quick beginner drawing lesson of an absolutely beautiful trophy. And you can understand why people would want this trophy so much, more so than the monetary value of the gold is its magnificence. It's absolutely magnificent. And there are actually, it's actually a set of 4 trophies. This one goes to the owner of the horse, and then there are 3 half of the size. These are about 20, this is I think 22 inches tall. Half the size in silver go to the trainer, the jockey, and the breeder. Well, I hope you'll join me on a next lesson, a future lesson, sorry. And we can work on the beautiful, beautiful spires. Before I forget, we're going to sign our work. Just pick this up for a second. Remember to always sign your work and date it. You'll be happy in the future that you dated it. Well, okay. Oh, well, thanks for joining me today. I hope everybody has a lovely day. I'm going to take a little sip of my ginger ale because I don't care for mint in my mint julep cup. And I am heading out. Everybody enjoy the day, and remember, I want you to smell the roses and then draw them. See you next time.